number 4. The following podcast episode was pre-recorded under the influence of painkillers after surgery, not to the danger of myself or anyone in my immediate vicinity, so please refrain from calling the authorities. Whispering Chicken presents. Alright, that's enough of that. I can't go all into it right now. I am laid up, but I had to get some things out because I wanted to try to give some more background information before I get started with the stories. And yes, surgery happened. Yes, surgery was a success, so far at least, until we get the results back. But now I am horizontal and giving this a try so that I can have some more podcasts to submit to iTunes and Spotify and all those. And I tried yesterday, and woo, that was a failure. Oh my goodness, pain pills just swept me away. And of course, my husband's like, well, you know, he did say to like alternate them, and I was like, oh, whoops. I don't know if I forgot the word alternate at the time, or if I was just excited about taking two at once, but here I am, and it's a little more balanced today, but I'm also balancing out, you know, some of the pain. And fortunately, I have a wonderful husband who was taught by a wonderful nurse of a mother on how to take care of things, taking care of business, and that's what he's out doing right now, taking care of some business. But he'll be back soon, and maybe I'll do a little guest spot with him later. But this part just kind of is, you know, filler. So, well, not filler, but additional background, you know, so that we can have some foundation to start on when I get started. And so I was going to do it yesterday, Wednesday, and since that's going to be the soap day, I'll go ahead and talk about that one. It's probably still going to be called Bold and Restless Lives because of the length of the other title, even though I like it. I may try to make it work. But I used to love watching soap when I was growing up. I don't know if any of you who are old enough to remember it watched it. It was silly, ridiculous. It is, I don't know, even more so probably than Mary Hartman. But I loved that, both of them. I also loved Carol Burnett doing her takeoff of Mary Hartman. I would have loved to have seen her tackle soap also, but it's actually kind of where I got one of the little songs I sing for our cat Odin, because he's just, you know, he's a scaredy cat, and so you always got to be very, very calm with him, or at least very excited, and, you know, not sound upset or depressed or anything negative at all, otherwise he runs and hides. So when the episode of Mary Hartman, oh, this is going to be so boring. In the episode of Mary Hartman, Vicki Lawrence played the next door neighbor. I can't remember her name, and you know, she had the big hair country singer type, and Jim Neighbors, they slipped in as her husband, and which actually, you know, literally could have been the other way around probably, but they were talking about Folgers crystals, because they used to do the, you know, commercial takeoffs, and she'd sing, I don't know what song it was off of, but she'd sing, these little crystals have won my heart, you know, the Folgers crystals that used to always be so popular when instant coffee was just the rage. And so, well, I don't know, his name kind of fit in it, and just one day it popped out, you know, this little Odin has won my heart, and he likes it, he loves it. His little tail would start switching and back and forth, and then it kind of morphed a little bit into, because he'll lay there, you know, like the Sphinx do, with the, you know, front legs on their stomach with the front legs out front, and but he'll cross his little front legs like a lady or like a sir. So this little Odin, wait, no, oh, so it became little Odin lady, sir. But anyway, I told you that was going to be really boring and stupid, but that's painful for you. Oh, I might as well gotta take one and see if I can get through this before it hits. So when I was like just around driving age, and I was still, heavy pretty much into the church in action only, pretty much, because I knew already that, by that point that it was going to be impossible for me to remain the rest of my life single, or at least not even try to find somebody, because, I wouldn't be able to. It's, and that was the thing with my mother, is that, oh yeah, okay, that's fine. You're still my son. That's fine, everything, except if you're dating. So, as soon as I got somebody, it was like everything flip flopped and just turned into madness, as if, it was her right to tell me that A, I had to go to church, and B, that I had to stay alone. Because really, I would have been doing it for her. So that's pretty selfish. Excuse me. It's well, from the tiny bit of blinds I can see through, it looks like it's a very pretty day here in Atlanta. Chilly, but sunshiny. So that's kind of nice to think about when I'm not looking at it. Excuse me. But I used to write these little soaps about my friends and I. There were a whole bunch of us. Well, about, I don't know, maybe 10 or so. But, in one congregation, that was kind of a bit odd. Not odd, but a little bit of a stretch. But that's kind of why we went there, is because at the time, before we went to that moved congregations, I was kind of very alone in my particular age range, except for a couple of people, and at least one of them wasn't even really the best influence, to use the technical religious terms. So we hopped over to where this other congregation, because my brother had started dating this girl. That'll be a whole new story. Believe me, that's a whole story in itself, because she rotten bitch, just rotten and selfish, and just horrible, and cheating, and my brother's deaf, and she used to call him her little retarded boy. And, oh yeah, she was, and I'll say her, and I don't care, Rhonda Love, who turned Rhonda James to Rhonda Love to Rhonda Payne, which is funny because all the real pain came first, and she turned their children against him. I mean, they don't realize I would be there, because she refused to talk to my brother on the teletype machine, but for the deaf anymore. She wouldn't even go that far, so she would bring my mother into it to translate. And so those kids have no idea that I was there when it would be his time to have them, and she would say no, so that she could tell them he didn't want to have her. And they, of course, blindly believed for the rest of their lives until now that this was the case. And I don't even know why they ever even came around after that, because they were just like her, very self-righteous, very, very self-righteous, and demeaning, and they were just horribly throwing insults at my father's funeral towards my mother. But anyway, I'll get off of that one right now, because that could go on and on. So we kind of went over there because there were other kids my age in that congregation, and then about 4 or 5 other people followed suit because of it. One of them because of me. I don't have that power, but because of the circumstances of and it was great. We did. It was really wonderful for us, because you didn't have to go out of the religion to find peers that you wanted to spend time with, because you had them right there. So in theory, it really did work very well, and in action it worked very well for a while, until, of course, hormones started kicking in and driver's licenses became available, and then that's when it all went just all pear side up. Is that what thing? Pear shaped? No, pear shaped. That's it. What side up is it? I can't remember. Oh shit! I haven't even taken that pain pill. So I would write these little, just fun things. Because now we were Jehovah's Witnesses, so, and I'll just say right now, I don't talk bad about Jehovah's Witnesses, because, who is any religion to talk bad about another religion? You have your extremists in every religion. It's a fact. It's blatant fact. You know, you've got it going on constantly, and it never ends. You know, Christian religions, whether it's Islam, whether you know, whatever, Jehovah's Witnesses, you know, the ones they call the weird ones, you know, Mormon, and but you know, it doesn't matter. And what I, you know, took away from it, which is what, you know, I will speak most about, is some of the values and the moral lessons that I got about basically being a good person. You know, it's like, well, I know others are teaching do unto others, but you know, why aren't they actually doing it? Because they like to just spout it and do their own thing and pretend like they're actually following their own words. So we would go out, you know, from door to door, and when we got to that age where we were kind of, you know, on our own, not around the adults as much doing it, we started kind of, you know, having a little more fun with it, playing, and because, you know, pretty much that group of us really weren't interested anymore. We were moving that way. I think Donna and I are some of the first to really, really like make the permanent break about this, and we did it about the same time, which is probably also why we're still such really, really good friends. Holla, Donna. But I would write these little, you know, crazy soap operas, and it was us, and you know, I would change the names barely, and it was really bad too. I was really, really horribly bad names, but I was more focused on the crazy things, but I was stinted because, you know, it was religion, so I had to work within the confines of, if this were to be found, which I believe once it was. I don't know. I think somebody might have made a complaint, because there's always somebody that made a complaint. Probably Sally Polite, because she was the most self-righteous of them all, which, you know, turned out later on that, you know, we found out, you know, she had her own secrets, her own demons. So, you know, it's like, well, see, there you go. That's what you get for trying to pretend like nobody else is doing right like you are. Oh, so what was I talking about? Oh, soap. And so it was, you know, a lot more PG rated, I guess, maybe even G, but I had to. And I never really went back to revisit that theory or that theme of writing until kind of, you know, a couple of years ago or so. And I remember doing it, and I remember thinking to myself, what if I don't have those constraints of, you know, not cursing? Which, you know, this is a good time to mention this. Now, I curse a lot. You probably heard that in the first one, but I'm going to go ahead and say it in this one so that people don't get kind of turned away from any of my writing. I got a lot of writing where there is absolutely not a bad word at all in it. You know, it's like everything kind of fits the situation for me, and I don't really know sometimes ahead of time what it's going to be like. You know, so whether it's going to be language, mild language, you know, bad language, or anything like that. I don't, you know, tend to write, you know, great sexual relationships, or you know, maybe, you know, talking about it, but you know, that's not what I'm trying to write. You know, I'll allude to it or mention it or something like that, but the actual lives and the day-to-day journeys that we go on, and these characters are going on, or what drive me, and the development of the characters, or the changing of the characters, or the craziness that's happening around them, depending on what story it is. So, you know, don't be put off by my language, because for the most part, it won't be there. It really won't. It'll be, you know, definitely more mature to that. I don't have to resort to that for all of my storytelling. It's just, you know, it's just not necessary, and I'm not going to do it just to do it, you know, or just because I think I need to do it all the time. Halfway through. So I wanted to get that about language, and I also wanted to talk about my my use of characters. Wait a minute, what was it? Oh, here we go. Feeling loopy. I'll get back to the soap. So, you know, I started writing this one, and then as soon as I started writing, I thought to myself, well, you know, just like the other one, it'll be ongoing. and I'll, have it on my blog, and it'll just continue and continue and continue like a soap opera would. And now, I'm liking it even more for continuing on in this venue on the podcast. And so, let's see, besides language, oh, that's it, thank God. Besides language, I wanted to talk about like my characters. There's a lot of times I'm really on purpose being very ambivalent about, or ambiguous, excuse me, about the types of characters they are. And I don't, not even probably 75% of the time do I pinpoint a race or sometimes an age, unless it's kind of integral to the plot, or I can throw it in at some point. It's not as important to me, because when I kind of picked up this mantle again about 8-9 years ago, as far as this new cycle and going through my blog to do it, I realized that I really wanted it to be more inclusive, not only more inclusive, so that, at times I will, bring up different sexualities, different races, different ages, different genders, but I would rather it be, open to the interpretation of the person who reads it, so that possibly they can relate to it a little more, with it having not been described as somebody completely opposite from that person. Gender will come up, the most, and then probably followed by age. But in general terms, I really don't feel like it's important as to whether this main character is Caucasian, African American, Western Indian, or Western Asian, excuse me, or British, or sometimes I'll include British because I'm an Anglophile, or Hispanic. It's like it could come out in the name and maybe a little bit of the discussions or dialogue, but it's not important, unless it has to do with somebody like Putin coming after one of my characters that's Russian. Then why in the world would it need to be known that that person's Russian, unless I just kind of slip in the name or slip in a little bit of dialogue that might sound more in that area. But other than that, I want my stories to be accessible to more people than sometimes in the past I have written. And that's where I talked about descriptions and being descriptive, that I will I try not to go overboard. I try to give enough to not break the narrative, but give you the information you need to complete the picture, and also not all at once, so that throughout the story you're able to, if it's a series like Charming Deviltries, which is the series of stories about, loosely based on Scott and me, very loosely, because like I said, they're insane, but man, I totally forgot where I was going. I don't know. Let's pretend this is where I was going with it. Because with Charming Deviltries, of course. Oh, yeah, and then by the end of the first story, you've got kind of a more well-rounded view of the characters that are going to be regular. But it will also build even more so as the stories go on. And the story is really a little bit more, and that is, balanced kind of with the characters, the main characters. So I got to try to give, due praise to all parts of it without sacrificing one of the other parts, and keeping the flow without breaking it by suddenly describing every little, which fingernail is cracked, and a couple of split ends over there on the left sideburns or something. And so that's my whole thing, is I'm trying to write wonderful stories that people can put themselves into, or enjoy thinking about this person who's into it, and having that person fit more in with somebody they can relate to that way. And hopefully I do that well. I really do, because that's one of my main things is, trying to make sure that without forcefully doing it, that I've got a set of different types of stories that can, be used to appeal to different types of people most of the time. And so hopefully, I've really, done that, and I can move on from there. So the soap opera, the stories were ridiculous. Now they're even more ridiculous, and this is one of those situations where there might, something sexual might happen, but it's not going to be. I'm not going to write that. Probably. Whereas in a soap opera, you'll see them in bed. I might write them in bed, but I'm not going to write a full love scene or anything, because it's not, a major part of what's actually happening. But we know what happens. But unlike soap operas, I don't have to show it in order to get from point A to point B. There was one other thing I was going to say about. Oh shit! I haven't taken this goddamn pill yet. There's another thing I was going to say about the characters. It'll come up at some point, I'm sure, because I'm going to try to do this kind of thing for a couple of weeks while I'm recovering, in order to have a good, foundation, like I said, to start with the stories. Thank God I remembered it again. Sometimes it takes me too long. Now, there is one thing that, besides, of course, the charming deviltries, which is my partner and myself, where they're gay, and they are like Scooby-Doo and his gang, but they it's not, though. All right, I'm just gonna come out and say it. I'm gay, and I don't really care much for gay fiction. I don't care much for gay people, period. It was detrimental to my sex life for a long time, but maybe that's why it took me so long to find Scott, somebody that is actually, real. And I don't like the people who live out stereotypes but it's not just gay people. There's all sorts of people I hate. I'm pretty much an equal opportunity hater. I hate you already, and you have to kind of show me why I shouldn't. But with these stories, another thing kind of came up, and actually this came up after I, was writing already, because the Me Too movement isn't, anything that's been around for decades, although the actual problems have been around for a lot longer than that. This movement, because hashtags haven't been around for decades. So, the one thing I do push for a little bit is for my stories to have strong female leads when I can, or the strong female who turns out to get the job done better than the lead. But it's like, men have done their job, and it's turned everything to shit. So it's time to start letting the women at least take the helm half the time, at least, if not more. So that's kind of where I'm coming at with all my stories, is some diversity and strength where people didn't expect it from before. And if people don't like it, nobody's making you listen to it. Nobody's making you go to my blog and read it. You could tell me, go ahead and tell me, but I'm sorry, I'll know you're wrong, and I'll just point and laugh and go on to the next comment. But it's not going to bother me at all, because I have no delusions about myself or my talent. It's there, and I know it is, but I don't think I'm the next Norman Mailer. I don't think I'm the next Barbara Cartland. Oh God, I'd love to be the next Agatha Christie. Oh, one of these days I'll be able to write a good mystery, straightforward mystery. I don't know if I can do it. I've tried, I've tinkered. I think I've blocked myself from doing it, but I'm going to try again at some point. But so my mysteries are a little more, along the lines of like your, Murder, She Wrote or Scooby-Doo kind of things. They're just, a little more lighthearted. But I think I'm going to start wrapping this up because that kind of covers the soap thing. Now, this world that's going to happen in the soap is going to be very different because of this mountain town where everybody thinks their lives are normal and they really aren't, and strange things happen, and names, jobs, locations, everything is just ridiculous. But I try as much as often to, much as I can, to bring in elements from soap operas, like I mentioned earlier. Twins taking place of twins, drug running a bit. Of course, there's secrets. There's huge secrets about the town itself that will come out later, and so. But there's like clones that kind of went bad. Mysterious visitors and mysterious stuff like that. And of course, like every soap opera, deaths where the person later comes back, because in soap opera nobody dies. I think that keeping within the outline that I can of a soap opera, I ignore everything else and really bring some insanity, much needed insanity to the world of soap operas. I still haven't taken that fucking pill. Hold on one second. Okay. Because my husband should be home kind of soon, so I want to go ahead and finish recording this. I had to while I just, the wind hit me. I tried it several times yesterday and just kept getting so drowsy from the painkillers that I had to just give it up. And so today I'm glad I was able to jump right on it. And I was going to have him as a guest, but I'll have him next time as my first guest. And I'm going to start talking about some of the other stories that I guess I'm going to have to start. I got 3 minutes left. I'm going to talk about Tempest and some of the things that happened there. I wrote it a little differently so that, like in the beginning, I pictured how the soap introduction would happen. Days of Our Lives has the hourglass, and General Hospital, has the hospital, shows the hospital and all these different things. And then I can't remember. I think it was. No, Guiding Light was different, but there was some where they kind of showed the town or the area, and so I kind of have been writing it like you're watching it, and you actually are acknowledged by. I break the fourth wall a few times, and you're actually acknowledged by a couple of characters that you don't know at first what role they play, and I'm not going to tell you because it's incredible. This was one of those instances where I kind of just, let myself choose a new adventure for that character, keeping some of the others the same. And I can tell you that all of the animals in the town of Tempest are the same animals that have always been there. Let's see, there are caves where things happen, like when the Chinook winds came, and it's a spoiler, but I'll just use 2 words: invisible baby. It's really going to be insane, but I think you'd enjoy it if you got a silly sense of humor, especially if you compare it to some of my other work and know that that's not all I got going on. Is I got other stories. So I think I pretty much talked about almost nothing today. And I will try to get back on track. Well, tomorrow's Friday. I'll try to get back on track tomorrow for at least a little summary of some of the other stories that I'm trying to pick from to go through on Friday, because I'm not sure how many episodes each story will take, since I have never split them up before. But I can kind of give you an overview of some of the different stories I've been writing, or probably even give you the blog information if you want it. But yeah, I'll kind of go over all that. But it may not be until Monday, the next regular episode of Fake Fiction. And having said that, I am going to my own personal La La Land. And I will see you guys on. Wait a minute. Is it? Yeah, it is. It is Thursday. God, I thought it feels like Monday. All right. Well, I will see you all probably on Monday. And hopefully you'll stick with it. Because I may be modest, but I think you're going to be in for a big surprise. Until then.